Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson
Better red than dead.
and Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like, bell notification buttons. Tell a friend about us. Tell a family member about us. Tell your local. I don't even know. I need some help on this.
Crazy person.
That works. I mean, local. Yeah, I mean, crazy person works. That the quirky.
You never
neighborhood
know who
guy.
I'm talking about, but everybody in their mind has someone that they pictured.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That'll work. And make sure they talk to God all the time and sing randomly. And as most of us do, get controlled by our families and not have any control whatsoever. Yeah, so before we jump into that, we do want to, again, appreciate our continued sponsor, as you can see in the corner over there, Manscaped. Call them what you want. Knee knockers, golden nuggets, thigh slappers, etc. But our friends at Manscaped refer to them as the boys. Not every man has children, but every man is responsible for their two boys below the waist. When your little guys have more hair than they need, trust Manscaped for all your grooming dreams. Boys need love too, so join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com and use the verdict, one word, for 20% off plus free shipping. You heard it here first. The boys are back in town. Tell you, it's the greatest ad copy ever. And I don't know if you've seen, if you look, go check out their website, manscaped.com. Not only do you get the 20% off plus free shipping with the code The Verdict, but also, man, their commercials right now are their ads, their visuals with the boys are just, they're spot on, classic, hilarious. But they got a whole lawnmower family now. So they have the lawnmower 3.0 plus, the 4.0 Pro, and the 5.0 Ultra. I have a 5.0 Ultra sitting around here somewhere. It's right here. It's very nice. I love it. Use it all the time. So yeah, go check it out. Go get it. They have 3 ball trimmers. How can you go wrong? I mean, take care of the boys. They need love too. And yeah, so there it is. But don't forget, go get 20% off plus free shipping with the code The Verdict at manscaped.com. It's 20% off plus free shipping with the code The Verdict at manscaped.com. For the best your boys have ever looked, trust Manscaped. And, give them the love they deserve. They're great. I love Manscaped, and we thank them for their continued sponsorship. Go, if you listen, watch, whatever, go get some Manscaped stuff, manscaped.com. Get that discount, get free shipping. Help us keep the sponsor because we love talking about their products and balls.
JJ, I'm going to say it is a crying shame. I had a poem ready to go, and we don't have time this episode. I have to listen next time.
Yep, next episode, we'll have a poem ready to rock. And I think I won't go there yet, but we'll talk about some requests that may have come through at some point. But, guys, it's May. And with that, the change of months comes a new change of topic, courtesy of our patrons over on Patreon. We appreciate you guys voting and taking part. We're doing
hold up. We're going to have to stop. Do we all appreciate them voting and chiming in, or was this... I feel like I just got ganged up again. For our listeners out there that are in support of things that I like to watch, I was not a part of what we watch here. I didn't make a suggestion. This is still, I guess, during my semi-retirement phase where I was.
No,
you got 2 movies picked.
I am the only one.
I didn't get
JJ's the one who got left out.
I didn't get to pick the topic. I would not have picked this booty cheeks topic.
Well, no, we let our.
We didn't pick the topic either. We
didn't pick any of the previous 5 topics.
I thought we suggest at least what they all vote on.
We used to. We don't anymore. We stopped at 4 or 5
You
times.
came back and we changed the rules.
Yeah,
we better increase the dollar amounts that these people get to subject me to punishment.
No way, dude. It's worth
punishment.
Yeah.
What?
Hey, and I want to hear it. 2 of these movies you suggested for this particular topic.
I'm
the only one that was left out.
I'm talking about in general because I'm giving them this month, it was like 10 hours of my life, which was fine because these are all actually good movies. They're just very long, but I'm worried about other topics. I'm just saying, that's a
It
lot of
could
power.
always be worse, Mattson. Okay.
Yeah, let's not instigate.
Do not.
I'm just saying, if there was ever a shameless plug to be a Patreon, just so you could torture all of us. I didn't know we didn't even get to. I thought we were at least suggesting what was picked. This is brutal. We get to pick the movies within the genre.
Yeah,
but we don't get to pick it. Man, like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back in retirement.
Of all the things you have to complain about, this is what you're gonna die on.
So yeah,
don't get me started.
Go jump on our Patreon. You can help torture Mattson, and
maybe don't, but do.
Mattson likes really long foreign films, so
yeah, exactly.
Kurosawa stuff,
especially black and white.
Month
these
of
people
Kurosawa.
Don't they want to see us watch Mission Impossible? They want to watch enjoyable movies. They don't want to have to sit in their ass for 4 hours and see someone go great song, by the way.
Whoa. Now we're about to fight.
Yeah.
But with that, so it is Broadway adaptation month here in the month of May. And to kick us off, we're starting with Fiddler on the Roof. Fiddler on the Roof was released November 3rd, 1971. It was written by Shalom Aleichem, I think. Sorry if I broke that name. Arnold Pearl and Joseph Stein. Directed by Norman Jewison. It stars Topol, Norma Crane, Leonard Frey, Molly Picon, Paul Mann, Rosalind Harris, Michelle Marsh, Neva Small, Paul Michael Glazer, and Barry Dennen. It is about a pre-revolutionary Russia where a Jewish peasant with traditional values contends with marrying off 3 of his daughters with the modern romantic ideals while growing anti-Semitic sentiment threatens his village. Yeah. Look, I am going to say I didn't get a movie. None of my movies were voted on. That's a first. That's never happened to me before, and I like it. But I will say, Alec, this was yours, right?
This was mine.
I love Fiddler on the Roof. I remember this brought back so many memories. Like this took me back to like junior high. So I was like big in band and choir and stuff throughout high school and junior high. And like the choir director, we did like a medley of Fiddler on the Roof. And so we had to watch it. It took 3 class sessions to watch it, but we watched it. And I love this movie. And I won't go into why yet because I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
Hey, I will say, would I like this movie even more if I got to watch it the first time I was in school for 3 classes? Hell yeah, that would have changed the tune very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did. I mean, it was... Yeah, we watched it in school, and I liked it.
I watched Fiddler one time on a Sunday because it appeased my mom's opinion of what should be watched on a Sunday.
Fair enough. It's worth watching anytime, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyways, Alec, tell us more.
This is one of those movies where, like, some of my earliest memories of movies involve Fiddler on the Roof. Like, I've been watching this for as long as I've been alive.
Oh, really?
And I mean, full transparency, the reason I picked this was I thought Mattson was gonna fucking hate it. Based on prior knowledge, I was expecting this to be one where Mattson was just gonna not enjoy it. So to find out that it's actually a movie he likes was in many ways like a huge excitement and just utter disappointment.
Yeah.
All at the same time. But it doesn't change the fact that I love Fiddler. The music is great. The story is phenomenal. And there is a whole lot of humor that can go missed if you just watch it for the music or the story. But there is so much fully encompassing this movie that, I mean, I was watching it and she'd never seen it before. And I'm just giggling the entire time. And she's kind of looking at me like, what? But she ended up liking it. Probably because I was giggling. But
fair.
Because it's not her type of movie.
Sure.
But I mean, it's just such a good one that it gets you in little moments.
Yeah. I want to say that now you know how I felt all of the month of April trying to torture you, and yet you came away almost unscathed.
Karma's a bitch.
And I will say that was one of the funniest text conversations that this group has ever had. Like, you going, I'm gonna get your ass, and we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's great picks, dude.
That did not go how I thought it was.
Yeah, that was amazing. And look, I love this movie because you can't look. Tevye might be one of the greatest characters ever created because he's just so likable, and you feel for this dude, and you're like enjoying his weird wit and his conversations with God, and his like, and on the other hand, but
dude's got 8 hands.
Seriously, like that whole every time he does that,
you wish you would be Tevye.
Probably.
You have your humor is pretty similar to his. I mean, I know you pretty well. I feel like your demeanor, if you were, I could see you be him for real.
Oh yeah, I relate to Tevye on so many levels. It's insane. Yeah. Like the amount of conversations where he's got to manipulate everybody in his life too. Like I love it.
I was going to ask you though, how did you feel about the fourth wall in this movie? Because I know in other places like this that could be a massive turnoff for you, but it's a big part of this movie and his humor style.
Sure. No, this one works for me because one, they lead with it, and they use it instead of just exposition, right? So it's kind of a trade-off for me. You're right. I don't usually love fourth wall breaks when they're done incorrectly or when they're overdone. But in this one, instead of like a narrator giving us the background and introducing things and talking about this village of Tevye and the people and tradition, like it's him breaking the fourth wall as the narrator. And because he's such an interesting character, and kudos to the actor because he just kills it, I like it because it keeps my attention, and it's not just some voice coming in from the heavens to tell us what we need to know about this place and these people, but it's actually Tevye sitting in the center of it, and it's telling his story, and it just starts so funny where he just just starts talking to you like you're an old friend. Like, no, I really appreciate it. I think the one thing that I laugh about is at first I was like, is he talking to us again? It took me a second to realize that later on in the movie, as he's having on the other hand, it's kind of a tricky because it feels like he's fourth wall breaking, but at the same time, in that moment, he's actually talking to God, like he's having a conversation. And so when I was younger, I didn't understand that. Now that I'm older, I get it. And it's even funnier, these like random conversations that he has, like the horse one, like early on, where he's just like, of all these things, like you choose to make my horse lame now,
right before the Sabbath.
Yeah.
I understand you make fun of me, but what do you have against my horse?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I'm someone that I'm pretty critical of humor, not always the first to laugh, or some could say like a Scrooge in some instances, but this type of humor, I think it doesn't always get me to like, it's not, a lot of times it's not like an outright chuckle or like meant to be like the slapstick funniest thing, like, oh, someone got punched in the face, stuff like that. But this is the witty kind of like subtle humor, and it's very, very well done. It makes me like smirk and smile and a little chuckle, and it's sprinkled throughout the movie, and it's well done. And for me, it's needed because the one thing that I don't jab at this movie, no one's going to be surprised me saying this that listens to us. This movie's long. I mean, very long. Like if there is one criticism, obviously, if they could redo this and make it a little bit short and do some of those things, great. But there's so much you'd miss, and I get all that. Like I get what this is. It's a musical. It's designed to be in acts. Like I understood that going in. I think maybe that's what Alec wasn't. I was calibrated for what. I wasn't surprised. Like if you had never seen it and didn't know, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if mentally I would be there, but I was ready for that. But they need that humor to interject and keep me going. And I think that exposition, especially from Tevye himself, just a great character. And then they sprinkle in like that guy that always brings the bad, like the news, but it's always bad and just gets crushed by people and it's not his fault. Like, and they do enough of those things throughout that I think it's really well done, but it's needed for someone like me that gets watch fatigue when I'm like, we're going here. It's going and going. I appreciate that about the movie.
Yeah. for sure.
So I think one of my favorite underlying jokes in this is actually the fact that, Tevye is this milkman, right? Who thinks he's a scholar. He desperately hates the butcher.
The great book says.
Yeah, because he's not a scholar, right? And you get at the very kind of early part of the movie with this "If I Were a Rich Man" number, you kind of get this feeling that he would just spend all his time studying, the Jewish religious texts, and holy shit, does he need it? But it's so funny to where he's the funny joke with the rabbi's son and Perchek. And he's like, Abraham said this, and no, that was Moses. Oh, okay. The first one was like, oh, I'm sorry. And then King David said that was also Moses. And it's like, for someone who was slow of speech, he sure talked a lot. You can see that he's getting fed up, and it's kind of come this this perceived kind of image that he puts out of him being a scholar and this scholarly individual, but not a single thing he says is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a little wrong, it's a lot wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just probably my favorite reoccurring joke.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the whole, and when, like it says in the good book, or like the good book says, it's great. The other one that I love too is how manipulative he is. He tries to be book smart and look like he's a super intelligent dude, but when it comes to manipulating people, he's a genius. The whole dream with his wife, absolutely amazing. Gets her so involved that she believes that she's seeing this sign that her daughter shouldn't be marrying the butcher and that she needs to dude. And then when she goes to sleep and he just smiles and taps his head, I'm like, I can't help but just giggle and go, that's what I'm talking about. So funny. And then when they're arguing with Perchik and his second daughter, and he's like, well, I gotta go make up another dream for your mother. Just I love this dude. And I think it's one of those crazy stories and movies that there are interesting characters and crazy interesting storylines, but without Tevye at the center of this thing, it's not. And yeah, it just does not work. And I don't know, the guy that plays him.
Oh, Topo is Tevye. This dude's played Tevye 2,000 times.
Oh, has he really?
We talk about typecast, or he played this role on Broadway, throughout the UK stage productions, film, radio, everything. He was Tevye.
Huh. Well, and I looked at his his filmography or whatever, and he hasn't done a lot as far as TV goes. He's mostly a stage actor. But TV and movies, he did this Fiddler on the Roof, and then he's done a couple others. But I was he did Flash Gordon or whatnot. So there's a weird lot of movies, but I just didn't, when I think of I just see his face and I know exactly who that is. You know what I mean? It's oh, that's Tevye. But I didn't know that he did. I didn't know he was on it on Broadway as well, that he was Tevye on Broadway, because he absolutely crushes it. It's just, he is so good in this whole movie that you can't, every time he's on screen, he just chews up the scenery.
His solo performance of If I Was a Rich Man. Wow. Incredible.
So good.
When even to the dance moves, I'm like, show us, JJ, get it.
I love it. Oh yeah, dude. That's a dance move. Every high school dance, I did 2 dances when I was in high school, because I can't dance. I am so rhythmless when it comes to dancing. Very athletic dude, even for a fat kid, but I cannot dance to save my life. But I have 2 dances that I do. I do the Tevye, and I'll just walk up and I don't give a shit. I have no shame either. So I just and then the other one is from Beetlejuice, when he's like, what's a guy got to do to have a little fun? And then he does and he's going into the strip club. I do that. That's the only 2 I do. But yeah, this movie, from the first time I saw it, I was like, that's the greatest dance ever. Because all you got to do is just shake. Put your arms out and shake, and you're good to go. But yeah, great character and acting with that character. And yeah, I love this.
All right, let me ask a couple of trivia questions.
Yeah.
This Broadway musical hit a historic number of performances It's in the. I'll give you a hint. It's more than 500, but how many performances did it hit to hit this special mark? It's a certain. It's less than 5,000, but more than 500.
3,000.
Perfect. 3,000.
3,000.
It hit. It
Just
was
like
the
baseball, 3,000 hit club.
It was the longest running Broadway musical for almost 10 years until which musical surpassed it?
Les Mis.
Not a bad guess, but no.
Lion King.
Also not a bad guess. One more. You guys definitely know this musical.
Phantom.
I'll give you a hint. Not Phantom. Hairspray is a helpful hint to what this musical is. Grease. It is.
Nice.
Yes. Grease surpassed it at some point, but clearly an extremely strong runway for this film. All right. How many Oscar nominations in 1972 did it receive? How many did it win?
How many did it receive?
Let's go with it. Receive first.
I'm going to say it received
6.
11.
Okay. 6 and 11. It won, I'll just say it, 3.
Okay.
Do we have any idea what those? I think you should be able to at least get 1 or 2 of these of the 3 that it won.
I would say
leading actor.
Yeah, I was going to say best actor. Would be a guess. I would say best soundtrack or music or score. Probably score is what they would call it. And then I don't think it won best film. Not in 71 or 2.
No, because that'd be Godfather came out.
Yeah.
Or Godfather Part 2. One of those.
Editing, maybe?
All right, I'll give it to you. Cinematography, sound, best musical scoring adaptation. So yeah, like
Nice.
taking that song. It didn't. Topple did not win leading man.
It's terrible.
Probably should have. I can't. I mean,
yeah,
I guess I should.
I guess
figure.
Brando, maybe.
It's gotta be Brando.
Yeah, it's about that time frame. Yeah, I mean, he should have because he kills it. Like I can't. I'm hard pressed to think of another character that's as charismatic.
Gene Hackman, Popeye.
That makes me sad. Like I love Gene Hackman.
The French Connection when he played Detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle.
Yeah, I mean, I love French Connection, but I don't think, and I love Hackman, but better than Topol is Tevia. I don't know. Anyway, I'm biased, but yeah, like I don't think there's a character that I can think of that's more charismatic or fun or lovable.
It's a good one. All right, maybe my last one. This movie obviously was portrayed in Russia, wasn't filmed there. Certainly some serious tensions going on during the filming of this during the Cold War. What Eastern European nation did they film this in?
Romania.
Not bad.
I don't know. I would want to say one of the stands.
It's lower down in the alphabet. Pretty low down there.
Pretty low down.
It's close to Z.
Yugoslavia.
Hey!
Oh, look at that. There you go.
Hey, look at that.
Yugoslavia. Good call. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy topic too. Like when you think about and I guess that's one of the things that like is interesting, the juxtaposition between the humor that we've already talked about a lot and the actual very sad and distressing content that's happening in the backdrop of this film, right? The whole anti-Semitic era leading up to, what we know to be a continuation of something that still today happens. But it's now obviously we know that it leads to, because when did this take? It's
Tsar in Russia, so this is going to be pre-World War One.
Sure, still got to be late 1800s. You think?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I don't think they ever say, but I mean, you're leading into a major world war, but which then of course led into the Second World War. But of course, the anti-Semitic passions around that, especially in the Eastern or in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
was always there. Like, I mean, you can get into some serious rhetoric as far as the religious backdrop as well, if you wanted to. And he even mentions like we're the chosen people, but sometimes I wish you'd choose someone else. Like, such a great line. But it's a very serious topic, and there's a lot of very sad themes, and yet very modern themes, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s when this was going on. Like the whole idea of the arranged marriages and that fighting against that we get from Perchik and his daughters, and the whole things about them changing this culture that's always been very driven by tradition, and it's I don't know, I just love the themes that are rolling on that are very serious, but you can't help but giggle and smile and laugh and feel for these people. But I think that's the connection, right? We all look for things that we can connect with, and that humor and those relatable experiences of being overruled in your family and then having to make the best of it, and then make it was my idea or I allowed it to happen still. It's just so interesting to me that how they can work those two things together, but very, very deep and heavy topics as well throughout.
Yeah, I mean, it showed a lot about the culture. You think of like the bottle dance towards the end, like
cool.
I was found out before we were recording. They didn't. It was all legit. It was all people just doing it for real. No wires, no nothing. They did it. Like the balance and coordination, but also just the unique glimpse into the culture of things that we wouldn't readily see. And I think they do a good job. Obviously, trying to mainstream it, being English and keeping it broad, but pulling us in. And then you just look at the whole relationship on like the patriarchy and how that like the old school way of relationships, kind of like you were talking about, JJ. And you kind of forget that these days, but it's a very different world not too long ago.
Yeah.
I also like kind of, you have the Jews have had the short stick on life really for time and all eternity, from the beginning type of a deal. So, I mean, they have all this hardship, but they still take it without necessarily becoming bitter is probably the best way to put it. And they show that in this film pretty well, where, right at the beginning, they ask the rabbi if there's a blessing for the Tsar. He's like, yeah, bless and keep the Tsar far away from us, right? And then even at the end where they're packing up and ready to go, they kind of have that little number where it's, what's here? Stick, a pot, a broom type of thing. Like, we're used to this before. And then there's that joke about maybe we always cover our heads because we're always on the move because we never get to stay put anywhere for too long. So you have this, the chosen people getting this shit hand, so to speak. But finding a way to still keep their culture, their tradition, their religion alive while being able to, keep a smile on their face, not turn bitter against the world for the, hand that they've been dealt. Which I thought was really, really done well in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And the story in general.
Yeah, you can see it. It's interesting to find the humor and the, we'll survive, we'll move on. And to your point, like the music goes so well too, because it's so back and forth. Like you have some If I Were a Rich Man, probably the most famous song from this film, especially with Gwen Stefani doing, a version-ish
Rich Girl.
Yeah, If I Were a Rich Girl. And then then you flip it on its head and you have like the wedding song stuff and you have some of those other things, but then you also have Sunrise Sunset, which is it can be a very melancholy song. It can be sad from a certain point of view, right? The whole, again, that duality of the young and the old and the change and, how did they get so old and now they're getting married, but it's so beautiful. Then you also have Anatevka, the song as they're walking out, and it's like, man, it's just so sad, but you still don't ever lose hope for these people. I think that's one of these things where, like, a lot of movies and films and stories, you get to the rock bottom and you're like, oh, how are they going to get out of this? There's never a question of how are they going to get out of this. In this movie, they'll move on and they'll settle another village and they'll move to, another place and do what they do. And they'll continue to adapt. And their culture and their traditions, which is the backdrop of this whole film, will change and grow along with their culture and what they're doing. So it's such an interesting storytelling because it's so different, and yet there's so many similarities to other stories and movies. And yeah, it's just so good. So good.
The other point that made me chuckle this time around was the relationship between Tevye and his wife.
Yeah.
I won't be late. I won't be late. If you ever stop talking, I won't be late. And just the back and forth that's when I texted you like, I'm seeing a lot of similarities in my marriage.
My favorite part with their dynamic, my favorite part is when, and I don't know why I can't think of her name. What's the second daughter? Huddle, yeah. So when she and Perchik tell him we're gonna get married, and he's like, okay, and he sits down to eat, and he's like, so I got some good news, and he tells her, he's like, I gave them my blessing, they're getting married. I'll eat later, and he gets up and runs out, like, and she's like, what? You didn't ask my permission. And he's like, hold on a minute. And then he gets pissed. And
I'm the father.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he looks at it for like half a second.
It's so good. Like, I'm like, I can relate on so many levels. I'm going to drop some shit that's going to get me in trouble right here. And then I'm going to run away. And then she's going to say something that I'm going to be like, now look, this is bullshit. And then I'll be like, I should have kept running.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that part of this film. It's one of my favorite. But all of his interactions with his wife just crack me up because you can tell that there's love there, but they're just constantly like at each other. You know what I mean? And it's just like I can relate to that so much. Like sometimes I think you get that there's that line everybody says, "Oh, you guys act like an old married couple." I'm like, that's so to me a compliment, because if you can play with each other in that way and be like, what from the outside people are like, they must fucking hate each other, but inside you're like, no, I absolutely adore this person, right? Like I just think that's such a great dynamic, and they play it so well in this film, the two of them.
Yeah, the interaction between them that I enjoy is right before the Sabbath, right? Tevye gets all dressed up and he just starts praying so he doesn't have to talk to his wife.
Yeah.
And like, I'm pretty sure he keeps his prayer going longer than he should.
Oh, yeah.
In order to avoid this conversation.
Oh, it's great. Love it. There's so many just great little moments within this film between the different characters. Like the other one that I enjoy is watching poor Tevye get just absolutely obliterated drunk because he's like, yeah, I'm gonna marry her off to this rich dude, and he's in there looking around at all this stuff, and he's like, oh, she's not gonna want for nothing. On the other hand, he's old, and then like they go get just absolutely smashed, and I'm like, oh, I can relate to that, like that level of drunk, like, and then he goes home and wakes up and he's all hungover from hell, and they're all talking to him, and he's just like, the clapping part in the barn, he's like, why do you have to? And I was like, that's so great. Love that part. So there's just so many good things about this film.
Very entertaining all over the place.
Yeah. But I am with Mattson, like it's long. Like if you're not prepared for a 3-hour movie, because it's a legit 3-hour movie. Take it in chunks.
Like, it's long. I had to watch it, and I did not watch it all. I mean, we say we don't have time for a lot of things. We have a time for a lot of things, but these days I do not have time to sit for 3 hours when my little guy's up. It's just it ain't gonna happen.
Sure. Thankfully, I still have that kind of time, and Casey likes musicals, so and she'd never seen this before, so
she never seen this.
She had never seen Fiddler on the Roof, so it was fun to sit and watch and just enjoy it. Like I hadn't watched it in years, but I got really excited when it hit the list. I was like, all right, I'll watch some Fiddler on the Roof.
I don't think I'll watch it again for a long time, but it was a good watch.
Yeah, it's reminding me too, I need to get some soundtracks back on my playlists that I had forgotten about, because I used to have a whole lot of like soundtrack based CDs back. Those are those little shiny silver things that we used to have to put in.
What?
Before streaming, we used
Okay, boomer.
our own CDs that had. I watched a great TikTok the other day where the lady's like, I'm convinced that the problem with relationships now is we don't make each other CDs anymore. We make playlists, but it's just not the same as getting that CD. It's like, I used to make mixtapes, bitch. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. CDs. I used to sit in my room with the radio playing, hovering over the record button in case they played the song I wanted to put on my mixtape with a pencil in case it broke. So I had to rewind that son of a bitch. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed getting back into the musicals and listening to this music, it's great. All right, should we rate it?
Let's do it.
All right, Alec, it's yours.
My movie, I get to go first. 5. 100%. I love this movie. It's enjoyable. I honestly don't notice that it's 3 hours when I watch it. I get sucked in and I'm singing along to every single song. I will say, out of personal habit, I skip that dream sequence most of the time because it's freaky as fuck. But when I watched it for the podcast, I did watch through it and then I did not sleep the following night. But that's beside the point. I don't notice how long it is. And I would sit down and watch it and be like, hey, let's watch it again. Like, I love it that much, and I think it's just so well done, so perfect. So it's a 5 for me.
Nice. I'm also going to give it a 5. I think it's one of those movies that even at 3 hours long, and even though it's a musical and it's older, it's just so good. Like, there's not, to your point, Alec, there's not a time when I'm watching it that I'm not interested in what's going on. I'm not bought in and feeling these characters and singing along and like nodding my head, and it's just, I really enjoy it. I'm always entertained. It's funny, it's uplifting, it's difficult, it's challenging. Like, it's all the things you could want. In my opinion, it's one of, if not, it's up there on the lists of adaptations, because I'm also, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this throughout the month, I struggle sometimes with stage adaptations to film. They don't always work. In fact, they very rarely work, in my opinion, well. This is one that works very well. And so very happy to watch this movie anytime I'm with you. I'd watch it just over and over and be okay with it. So 5 for me. Love it. All right, Mattson, bring us home, buddy.
4.5. Everything you guys said I agree with. The only thing I'm docking it for, no surprise here, it's really long. It's too long. It's long, but everything else is great.
I mean, there is at least 5 minutes you could cut from like the one scene, like where it's like next scene, and it just shows the dude standing on the roof. I'm like, wait, man, this movie's all.
Yeah.
So
got that intermission.
Yeah, that's exactly. When it was in theaters, that's when they let you go get a piss and a drink and some snacks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, love it. Great choice, Alec. Good vote, Patreon. We appreciate it. And Alec, tell everybody where they can find us.
Happy to. So thank you for tuning in to our review of Fiddler on the Roof. Classic story steeped in tradition that is good fun for everyone.
Tradition. Sorry.
Yeah.
Had to do it.
If you enjoyed our review, leave us a comment or a like and let us know why or what your verdict is on Fiddler on the Roof. Did we get it right or did we get it wrong? Special thanks to our patrons. I'm going to assume that names haven't changed. So Puckered, Rich, and Max Bialystock. That was JJ's in case you did need to change names. For the selection and for the topic this month, which, as JJ said, Broadway adaptions. This is week 1. We got 3 more to go. And with that, I'll kick it back to the Titan of Terror, the Mauling Monarch, JJ.
Yeah, that's me. Thanks, Alec. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the rest of this month. Can't wait. I do love a good musical. So with that, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!